passenger, someone who's got great courage. So I thank her for her work as the CEO of NYSERDA. So, it's great to come back here because you get a chance to put a spotlight on places that are really nation leading. And as we look to the future, you can already look at what people who have a vision have already accomplished. So it's fitting that we be here in White Plains to make some announcements about our transition as a state to electric vehicles. I came here back in 2015, I believe, Mayor, and you walked me through the downtown and you were talking about all the electric charging stations that you wanted to see for your community, and no other mayors were talking like that. I mean, you just were so ahead of your time, and I remember you said you want to be at the forefront of the clean energy revolution, and you've really embraced this. You have 16 hybrid electric cars in your fleet, leading our state, 28 city-owned electric charging stations, and as well as all the other things that you and the City Council have accomplished. So I want to continue to hold you out as a model of what true leadership looks like, especially here this past week, as we celebrated Climate Week. I participated in a number of initiatives, a number of announcements, but also in New York, every week is Climate Week. This is not a new phenomenon. Every week is Climate Week, and we're committed to protecting our environment and combating climate change every single day. But in particular, this is actually National Drive Electric Week. So there's a week for everything, but this is National Drive Electric Week. So really, the electric vehicles are the keys to achieving this. And I know I'm talking about because they've been having me test drive electric vehicles since their inception. I guess it's always like when I was lieutenant governor, go ahead, have the lieutenant governor do it. I actually did a lot of autonomous vehicles by myself on highways, so go figure. Now I have a lieutenant governor who can do that for me. But it is great to see what we're doing here. And, I've always posed this question, some of you know the answer because you've heard me say it, but did you know how long we've had electric vehicles in the state of New York? Over 100 years. Over 100 years. But 10 points to the person who can shout out the name of the place where they first started. Buffalo. You can take the girl out of Buffalo, but you can't take Buffalo out of the girl. I get it. It's Buffalo. And what it was, and I actually went and visited the museum where they celebrate this great accomplishment. And the original story is that, while men at work, women wanted to have some freedom. And it was very hard for them to really drive and have the ability to escape their domestic servitude in many cases. They had a crank that was very hard for them. So a Buffalo electric motor company was created, and they had the first electric vehicles, which actually gave women the freedom to drive even before they had the freedom and the right to vote. So that's where we were a long time ago. And if we hadn't had the oil barons of the time decide that there is another energy source known as oil and gasoline to power our vehicles, can you imagine what a different world we'd be in today with respect to our environment? So, can't undo the past, but we can look to the future. And we're going to continue making New York State the home of electric vehicle usage. And I'm excited because vehicles like this are made right in Detroit, American made. I think the mayor will talk a little about his experience with these vehicles. And here's how we're making it happen. We're really putting our foot down the accelerator and revving up our efforts to make sure we have this transition, not someday in the future, but on a specific date, a specific year, by the year 2035. And I signed this goal last year. We had to wait for California to take a step because there's some federal requirement that California had to go first. That's the only time letting them go first. That's all right. But once they made that decision, we were able to step up immediately and say, now there's nothing holding us back. So we've achieved that milestone that we can be zero-emission vehicles. New vehicles will all be zero-emission vehicles by the year 2035. So we're also working on our Advanced Clean Car 2 initiatives, and that's going to be 35% of electric vehicles by 2026 and 68% by the year 2030. So it's not just saying all of a sudden in the future. We actually have benchmarks to achieve to show we're on the path to get there. Also, upfront costs are still high. They're still high. I understand that. So we're going to continue having an assistance program to help purchasers defray the cost. And today I'm here to announce that we're adding $10 million to our Drive Clean rebate program to help New Yorkers purchase and drive these vehicles. The rebate is available in all 62 counties. That's up to $2,000 per vehicle, and already we've issued over 78,000 rebates, and I want to continue that trajectory. We've already spent over $95 million, so we're going to do that. But okay, we have the vehicles, but what about the chargers? Got to have the chargers. And I'm proud to announce that the Power Authority just finished their installation of their 100th Evolve New York fast charger. Now, there's a difference between chargers and fast chargers. I've launched a lot of the fast charging stations. Think about how simple this is. Simply pull into a gas station, formerly known as a gas station. Convenience store, you want to pick up a couple snacks to take home. While you're in there for 20 minutes with a fast charging station, your vehicle can be charged. No longer does it have to be overnight and longer periods of time. So we're focused on getting these fast chargers out there, and we've already accomplished over 100 when we're just getting started. So we're never going to hesitate. We are not heading down that dead-end street any longer. We're going to keep powering forward, but I want to make sure that we have the investments necessary. Lastly, the federal government Department of Transportation last week approved a $5 billion plan. $5 billion. That's a big lot of zeros. For all 50 states to have charging stations, and allocates within that $175 million for New York State. We've been already on this path. We've been on this road before. But now with this extra money from the federal commitment to clean energy initiatives, we'll be even faster. So that's going to help over 14 interstates in New York, especially ones used by the people in this community. I-95, I-87, I-84, and I-684. So you're going to see that you have no more excuses, is my point. Okay, if you're saying, well, there's no more, I don't have enough charging stations, that era is over. I'm telling you where they are. So now we're ready to launch into this future. So that builds on our already $1 billion investment in expanding charging stations. So I expect EV sales to go up. They've been up 30% already over 2021. That's extraordinary. And that's with supply chain shortages. You talk to a lot of dealers, and the whole phenomenon we have with not having enough chips at the manufacturing facilities, we've had those issues. But that being said, our sales are still up 30% over last year. So we're also going to be making sure our school buses, think about the kids who stand there and have to breathe in the fumes while they're waiting for the bus to come. That era will be over. And we've committed to making sure that by 2027, all school buses, all new school buses will be zero emission as well, and the whole fleet must be zero emission by the year 2035. So we're going to make sure we have the resources. We have over $500 million from our Environmental Bond Act on the ballot this November. Just want to point that out. Make sure you turn over your ballot. Make sure you do the right thing and take a look at that. And so, welcome to the future. It's starting right here in places like White Plains. And again, I want to thank our mayor for leading the way and making sure we can see that if there's an intentionality, if you decide to do something, if you make that commitment, it can be done. And we're seeing the evidence of that right here. But to continue the conversation, his reflections, I'd like to bring up our Senator Pete Harcum. Thank you.
Good morning. Let's hear it for our Governor, Kathy Hochul. Thank you so much for your leadership, Governor. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you in White Plains. Mr. Mayor, thank you for having us. Colleagues in government, it is really a great day today. The key announcements: more money in rebates for solar vehicles, the $175 million for charging stations in New York. And I'm so proud that the legislation that the governor mentioned, that in New York by 2035, all vehicles need to be zero emissions, was my bill in the Senate. And while there's a lot of talk about California, the governor signed that bill last year, a full year ahead of California. So New York truly leads. And just very briefly, there are a couple reasons why this is so important. We all know about climate change and the impact and the devastating effects climate change is having on our planet. The other reason people may not know this. We look around Westchester, we see a lot of greenery. It's very bucolic. Westchester is a non-attainment zone for the Federal Clean Air Act. And the reason is because of all the vehicular traffic we have. And so if we want to protect our children's health, we want to lower childhood asthma rates, seniors with respiratory issues. The governor referred to school buses. Children inside a school bus breathe 19 times more harmful emissions than the rest of us do. And that's why we've got to change that, and that's why we have $500 million in the environmental bond, and that's why the governor set those rigorous goals for school fleets to transition. And the final reason is jobs, jobs, jobs. The sooner we embrace this, good paying union jobs, manufacturing, installing, maintaining all over New York. So this is another step forward today as New York moves forward, greening our transportation sector. Governor, I want to thank you for your bold leadership, and New York is leading the way. And with that, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Assembly Member Amy Paulin.
Thank you. Welcome to my district, and a shout out to our mayor again for making White Plains such an environmentally friendly place. Today we're really here to commend our governor for her leadership in continuing by allowing us to continue on the path to the electrification of our grid. And electric cars are certainly an important step in that direction. We have to have a clean grid, and we have to electrify our cars and our lives in order to really have a clean environment. As pointed out by Senator Hochul, all of the reasons are our health and our children's health and our future. And, you know, we really need to be able to do two things, storage and electrifying our cars. And you can't do that without stations. You can't, I myself, we own 2 electric cars in our family. And it's always about where you're going to charge, what's the range. So unless you have the battery storage and you have the charging station, you don't have the ability to continue advancements in the renewable era. So, we are ahead of the curve. I'm very proud of being a New Yorker. I'm proud that we have a governor who understands how we're going to do this. And, a shout out to the rebate program. I think it's had a tremendous impact. And, the continuation of it. It started when I was energy chair. I'm very proud of that. And continuing it is critical to continue to make sure we fulfill this goal. So I'm going to ask my colleague, Jamel Bailey, to come up now and say a few words. And thank you so much for being here to give our governor the credit she deserves.
Good morning, everyone. I represent the Bronx and Westchester County, for the record, just in case you wonder why is the guy from the Bronx here. As I like to call it, Westchester County, and the best governor of the 50 governors is our great Governor Kathy Hochul. It takes a true visionary to understand that the phrase "it's electric" is not simply a dance that we have on the dance floor, or is not a concept from the Jetsons as it was when I was growing up. It is a way of looking at the future. And if you don't think about the future now, when the future comes, we will be wholly unprepared for it. And our great governor is not someone who is ever caught flat-footed. She is not ever caught unprepared. And let that be a lesson to everybody within the sound of my voice and within the sound of our collective voice in this state. We will not be caught flat-footed. This is a state that will be prepared under the leadership of our great governor and Senator Hochul, who was a visionary in being the lead sponsor of this legislation. I look at things through the lens of not just a legislator, but as a father. And I was at a fatherhood event just a little while ago in the Bronx, forgive me, before I got here. And we were talking about what are we doing for the future now? What are we doing to make sure that we're prepared for our children's future? And my daughter is 8 years and 15 days old, not that I was counting or anything like that. And my youngest is 5 years, and I don't have the days, but she'll be 6 on December 16th. And I look at the lens of the world squarely through their eyes. And when they are old enough to drive, they will be driving electric cars. They will be looking at a number of charging stations that are there because of the work that we are doing now. Just because you can't see the seed that you've planted does not mean that it will not grow and grow bountifully. And we are planting seeds in the great state of New York now for the future. So I'm grateful to our great governor. I'm grateful to my colleagues in government. I'm grateful to our great mayor, who has been a visionary. And again, Mr. Mayor, I spend a lot of money and a lot of time up here in White Plains. You don't tell my friends in the malls in the Bronx that, but I do spend a lot of money and time. But you spend a lot of time investing and making sure that this has been a place that's leading. So I want to introduce the great mayor of the city of White Plains, Mayor Tom Roach.
Thank you, and it's great to see everyone here. I want to first acknowledge my colleagues. That's how we get things done around here. I have Councilman Rich Payne, Council President Justin Brash, Councilwoman Jen Puja, and Councilwoman Vicky Presser, and right behind them, Councilman John Martin. So thank you for being here, for everything that we do together. But I've been driving electric for a long time. I have my 4th electric car right now, and I just got a brand new Chevy Bolt. I got the $2,000 rebate. Thank you very much, New York State. Pretty much that same color scheme. It's a more updated version, but that's okay, you know. But I have driven, I've been a part of the history of this. My first car was a Nissan Leaf, which had about a 70-mile range. Back when finding a level 2 charger was like finding gold. And at one point, I had to get off the thruway. I was out of power. Don't get scared. This doesn't happen anymore. But I always had an extension cord in the car because in the pioneer days, that's what you did. And I saw a diner. I pulled in. I said to the person at the counter, I'm going to have lunch here. Do you mind if I plug my car in? And she said, go talk to the dishwasher. I drove around. He came out. I handed him the extension cord. He went inside, and I plugged the car in. So it gave me enough juice to get to a charger on the thruway. But those days are over. But the time I spent driving these low mileage cars, I really learned the grid infrastructure, how important it is to have chargers everywhere. When you have 250 miles, it's a kind of I feel like a luxury. I don't worry about it. Most nights I don't even plug the car in. But when you have a low mileage car, you really need those chargers. And how many people know that there's a Tops supermarket in LaGrangeville, New York? I know, because every time I would go to Albany, I would have to stop there because there's a level 3 charger put in by the state of New York. Thank you, Governor. As part of the Evolve New York program. I also want to point out, when I dream of having the governor come to White Plains, my selected site wouldn't have been the top deck of our oldest garage. But we're here to prove a point. And I would say the newest part of this deck are these solar panels over your head. We have put canopies on our garages, our ice rink, our DPW garage, our landfill. We're building a new building out there that's got panels on it. And all of this is generating $1 million in revenue for the city, cutting our electric rates by about $100,000, and so I encourage, whenever I see a parking lot now, I say, why aren't there canopies on it? But what I want to finish up by saying is that the governor and our legislature has done a fantastic job of passing legislation to enable us to lead the way in green energy. But as Greta Thunberg said, passing for all of us to just pass resolutions that we promise to do something by 2035, blah, blah, blah. The state has taken action. The local governments have to act. The tools are there before us. They've been provided to us. There's no excuse. We have to act now. Right now, this is all these kilowatt hours being generated are not being generated. We're replacing fossil fuels. Every day that we don't have these up there is a lost day at a time we don't have days to lose. So I want to strongly say, let's take the tools this wonderful governor and our great legislature have given us and make this a better planet and fight this climate crisis. With that, Ken Jenkins, the Deputy County Executive, is here. I'm going to acknowledge him. And I will. Yeah, okay. The only one who is a bigger electric vehicle nerd than me is Ken Jenkins. So if you see us talking at any kind of gathering, stay away. Stay away. But anyway, thank you all for being here. It's been great working with everyone, and we look forward to the future.
Thank you for attending today's event. We wish you a safe trip home and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.